Hello guys, we are in Saigon, beautiful day. It's been a while, but we're sitting here with Christina and John, and it's been years since we.
I think 7 years.
7 years?
Seven.
7 years since we last met, and you guys all know Christine as the U.S. MasterChef winner. We're just gonna talk about food today because we are big foodies, and yeah, we love food.
Pleasure to meet you too today. I can't believe it again. Last time 7 years ago, we met each other in Da Nang, right? I knew it's 7 years because at that time I just gave birth to our first daughter. I think I think she was 3 months at that time. Yeah. Now she's 7. So yeah.
Wow, it's been a long time.
Yes.
A decade.
Yes. Tell us about the past at least 2 years. We heard that you opened a few restaurants, right? And they all became really successful.
Yeah, I mean, a lot's changed. In 2019, right before the pandemic, we opened the Blind Goat, which is the first one. So I named it that. People always wonder, a lot of non-Asians always wonder why we called it the Blind Goat, but I was born the year of the goat. I'm known as the blind cook, so that's why we called it that. We opened that one in a food hall. It was very successful at the beginning, and then to my surprise, it got nominated for Best New Restaurant by the James Beard Foundation, which is like a huge deal. I don't know, do you hear about the James Beard Awards here?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah, so I was very shocked. And then right after that, the pandemic hit, so we had to pivot quite quickly and change our menu a lot. Restaurants were closed down, but they still allowed us to be open and do takeout. So we moved to takeout, and then we applied for a lot of federal aid to keep the restaurant open, to be able to pay our staff, because my biggest concern was I didn't want any of my staff to get laid off or go hungry and not be able to pay rent. So we were able to pay them almost the same as what they were making before the pandemic, and then we just had to change up the menu because people wanted a lot of comfort food, so we had to do a lot of like gum jian and like what else we do, like maybe what were we switching to
Before?
I mean, what did we switch to during the pandemic? Our menu, there was like we added fried rice, we added like family combos,
like
bún
chicken
nướng,
wings, like very friendly consumer food. That people are
dishes
used to
that
seeing.
người Mỹ, like they know and they understand. Because before that, we were serving a little bit more foods that they've never heard of, like bánh tráng nướng or something, and that wouldn't travel well. So we switched the menu. The bánh tráng nướng, like it would get soggy if you take it to go. Yeah, I think so.
But in store that was selling.
That was, yes,
Yeah.
we were selling it at the restaurant. So that happened, and then for some crazy reason, we had already signed a lease to open another restaurant called Xin Jiao. So
Yeah,
we
we
had
signed
to.
it in
Yeah,
November.
here you can talk about
Yeah,
that.
we signed that lease in November. So we opened that year, and then November we're like, oh, we found a new spot, and we partnered up with another local chef, and he's well known for Vietnamese food as well. And we were supposed to open in like February. So we signed in November, and February we were like, okay, we're gonna open February. And that's when like COVID just started.
So this was 2020?
Yes, February
Yeah.
2020.
And I was like, maybe we should delay, see how this COVID situation happens. And I thought maybe it would be like a couple months and then it'll like die. Nope, it just like kept going worse. But our rent is just still stacking, you know? And come like July, I was like, we owe so much money for rent. I was like, we gotta open. It sucks. And so we basically sped up through all the construction, and then September of 2020 we opened. And for the first like 5 months, we just like lost money. Like every month it was just like losing money because it was still peak pandemic. No one really wanted to go out. And even with the stigma of like COVID, like people think it's like an Asian disease. So like being an Asian restaurant, like a lot of Asian restaurants were affected. And we kind of struggled through, and then we finally caught our stride in 2021 and started making money, pay back all of our debt. So 2022, we're starting like with a James Beard nomination.
Another James Beard nomination.
And debt free. We paid all of our debt off. Yeah, so it's been a crazy few years.
Yeah, so it's been tough, very stressful. It's been tough and very stressful, but I think on the days when it is good, like if we can serve someone and they say this is one of the best meals I've ever had in my life, or they're really, happy to experience being able to eat out again during, after being at home for so long because of COVID, like, or having like staff just, pump out good food, everyone's getting along. Like, it's those days, I think, when we look at each other and then we're like, okay, this was worth it. But otherwise, it's very, very stressful. I'm sure we all know how hard it is to run a restaurant. So
Great stories. I can feel that is really similar to having children, when you don't know how the first one got here, and then before you get used to the first one, somehow the second one just came along and you just go with it. But then one day when they say, I love you, mom, it's all worth it, right? Yes.
So you mentioned the rent you put out for the second restaurant, right? So I want to ask, what is the typical lease you have for a project like that in the States?
Typically, whenever you sign a lease in the States, you can do all kinds of negotiations. Like, it could be a 1-year lease if you want. You could do a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, or however long you want. That's the second restaurant is called Xin Jiao. We signed that one for 5-year lease with a 5-year option to extend another 5-year, and then another 5-year option after that. So we could technically do 15-year if we wanted.
Quite a commitment.
It's quite a commitment, but we're already 2 years into our 5-year lease, so there's only 3 years left. And you guys know restaurant life is hard. So I was just like, man, 2 more years, maybe we should just close it and call it a day. Because like we signed 2 more leases. So we have 2 more projects. It's fine. It's fine.
when are you releasing this? This is breaking news that you're about to put on your podcast.
Well,
Summer and Leon have breaking news.
well, I mean the first we signed 2 more leases. So one lease is doing Blind Goat. Number
In a
2.
new location.
Yeah, full bar, everything. And then another one is a secret project. We haven't announced yet, so that was a different. Yeah.
So how big is the blind goat?
So right now, our first one is 37 square meter.
Oh,
So small.
Very
really
small.
small.
It's
Real
inside
small.
a food hall.
I see,
Yeah.
I see. It's like a counter or something.
Yes.
Yeah. Xin Jiao that we open is 232 square meter, not including outside seating.
200.
232 square meter.
Oh, that's.
So it's a decent size.
Yeah, that's good.
And then our new Blind Goat is how many? 3,000?
3338.
310 square meter.
Oh.
So it's big. Yeah, so it's a pretty decent one. And then our new lease for that one is 83 square meter.
Oh, the
Yeah, the small.
secret concept?
Small, yeah.
The secret goat.
The secret goat.
What we always want to ask you guys, because I think usually Christine is the one who appear on media, right? John is like rarely.
I don't
like
know.
the-
He's been appearing a lot. Now he's got fans too. Asking
Oh,
for pictures.
really?
Where do I appear?
On my YouTube and just on on a lot of our photos. and
but
stuff.
not much officially.
No, she's the face of the business.
So
I just hold the bags.
Okay, I will take this chance to ask, how does it feel to work as a husband and wife duo? Because we do the same,
Yeah.
and we want to hear from you guys. How many days a week do you want to kill the other one?
Surprisingly for us, we don't really fight all too often. We might like annoy each other here and there, but when it comes to like business, like we're pretty much on the same page. And if we're not, we like kind of talk it through and see like, okay, why do you think that, and why do I think it this way, and we try to find a middle ground. But most of the time, we're both on the same page, right? Yeah. And I don't know if we're normal, but like for us, we spend like a shit ton of time together, like, and we love it, like. We work at home all day. We go to the restaurants together.
Yeah, our
like,
desks at home are side by side. So he's like sits this close, almost this close to me at home, and we during the day it's like that, and then at night and weekends we go to the restaurant. At home we live
Yeah.
together, so we're together
Yeah.
all the time.
So you have to accept that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we surprisingly we enjoy it.
We just like each other's
we learn
company.
to, yeah.
We're not like lovey-dovey, like, oh, like all touching and shit like that. No. But we just like being in each other's presence.
I think we perfectly understand that situation because we are the same.
Yeah.
We've been together for 18 years and
Yeah, that sounds like us.
most of the time we spend 24/7 together.
Yeah.
I said I've never heard John say we love being together. I love being with you. He's never said that. So
We
I'm
put
like-
that as
I'm
the
like, thank you
title
for
of the
saying it
video
on camera.
podcast.
This kombucha is strong.
What is the perception of the Americans about Vietnamese food and especially the food that you are currently serving in your restaurants?
You want me to answer it?
Yeah.
The Korean guy is gonna answer.
No,
it.
I mean, you-
Let me speak for your people.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You know.
For your service.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys know, but like Houston is one of the biggest cities, well, in general, but also one of the biggest cities for the highest Vietnamese population next to like California. And so there is a ton of really good Vietnamese food, and a lot of Americans there do. I feel like Vietnamese food has become a very big part of American culture now, especially like, you know, if you ask a random American guy or girl and say, hey, what do you think of Vietnamese food? They're like, oh, I love pho, I love banh mi. Those are the two main things. And if you go to Houston, you'll find pho and banh mi everywhere, and they do really, really well. And when we wanted to open up a restaurant, I didn't want to do the traditional food because all these people have been doing it for generations and they do it really, really well. Like, I don't think our pho is better than people who have been doing it for a long, long time. And so our approach was, okay, how can we take Vietnamese food, take our own interpretation on it, and use modern techniques and give it a different view of what Vietnamese food can be. Because if you go to like a lot of these Southeast Asian restaurants, I don't know how it is here, but back in America, like people had this perception that Vietnamese food has to be cheap. Has to be cheap. But if you look at, you know, Korean food, Japanese food, they're all very expensive. And there's really no reason that Vietnamese food or Chinese food or Cambodian, whatever, should be any cheaper or any more. Like, and so there's a stigma that Vietnamese food has to be cheap, and we wanted to really break that mold that, you know, there's a lot of time and energy and care that goes into Vietnamese food, and it should not be this cheap. You know, people complain like, oh, I remember banh mi's used to be $2 and now it's like $10. It's like, yeah, there's a reason it's $10. People are paying fair wages. They're using organic ingredients, local ingredients, good fresh bread. You know, they're hand making all the pate, etc. So there's like a lot of love and care that goes into it. And so with our restaurants, we really wanted to take that approach and try to educate and take our own modern take on these classic dishes. And Texas is well known for smoked meats, like smoked barbecue and stuff. So our business partner at Sin Chow really loves smoking meat. So we take that smoked meat and make like Vietnamese up chow style like noodles and like, I don't know, we do like brisket, smoked brisket spring rolls.
Yeah, we do like beef, but with smoked up, like
Yeah. So we try to be creative and bring in some of those like Texas elements and kind of mesh it with Vietnamese style. And that's kind of our take on it, and trying to bring in those people to say, hey, there's more to Vietnamese food than pho and banh mi. There's so much other shit that's really, really good.
So I want to ask Christine, what is a fun dish that you created for your restaurants? Fun and memorable, you know, or your favorite dish?
What do you think? Well, I was gonna say the queso. I grew up in Texas, and so we have a lot of Tex-Mex food. So queso is the melted cheese that you dip your chips in, right? Those are
nacho cheese.
yes, yeah, similar to that. Yeah, so that's a very much like a Tex-Mex invention. So at the Blind Goat, we decided to make queso, and we spelled it Quexo with the non above it, so queso. And then we, instead of doing like the peppers and stuff that Tex-Mex queso would normally have in there, we made ớt satay, and then so with like dried shrimp, fish sauce, lemongrass, sugar, garlic. And then we mix that into the cheese that we melt down. We use white cheddar, and then we melt it down with. The trick is to use sodium citrate. That makes your cheese like velvety, like nacho cheese. Otherwise, if you melt like just freshly grated cheese, it's still very lumpy. So you use sodium citrate, and then we put the ớt satay vào. So then it has, when you eat it, it's a little spicy and a little funky. And you definitely can tell it's like kind of Southeast Asian. And then we serve it with shrimp chips instead of like tortilla chips. So that's like something really creative we did at the Blind Goat. Oh yeah, here, you can talk about that.
Oh, okay. You guys know what apple pie is, right?
You guys really went crazy with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
I totally forgot.
I love it.
Oh yeah. Every time we come up with a dish, I'm like, can we make it weird as possible and see if it works?
Exactly like us.
Yeah. So there's a famous scene from her MasterChef season where she makes apple pie, and she's crying,
Yes,
and everyone loves it. So I was like, we gotta add an apple pie on the menu. And so we took an apple pie, and she kind of infused like the pho spices like cinnamon, cardamom, cloves, and made it into the apple pie. And I was like, oh, why don't we do like a caramel sauce, but let's put fish sauce into the caramel sauce. So we make fish sauce caramel. Her face is like, what the hell? It sounds weird.
It's a dessert.
It's a dessert.
The spices I used star anise, cinnamon, cloves, and then we took out
lemongrass. We put
took
lemongrass
out cardamom.
in it, too.
We didn't put cardamom in, and then we
okay.
put in lemongrass and ginger.
Okay.
Is it because you thought that cardamom might taste a little bit too Indian?
I just
Cardamom
swapped-
is really strong.
I mean, I wanted to swap out a lot of the typical warm spices of apple pie and then put the pho spices in. And when I cook pho, I don't normally use cardamom. So that's why I took it out, And then John came up with the fish sauce caramel.
Yeah.
So, So
Yeah. Just take your classic caramel recipe with the cream and the brown sugar, and you melt it down. And then towards the end, you just put maybe a little bit of fish sauce into it, so you get this salty, sweet flavor. When you smell it, you can definitely smell the fish sauce. But when you eat it, it's like a. Do you like PBJs, peanut butter and jelly, like that salty and sweet? You get both of that, and that's one of our favorites.
That's one of the popular item in the restaurant.
is,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, that's cool.
So we bake it, and it's like this little rectangular piece, and then we drizzle the sauce over it.
I can see how, how they came to be, like, because it's the mixtures of where you live and your heritage, right? You came into contact with all these different food around you, Tex-Mex and everything. Say, how can we, Vietnamese fry? It's brilliant.
Please.
I want to ask, what is the ingredients like over there in the U.S.? So, you're running a few Vietnamese restaurants. So, how do you find the ingredients over there? Do they have? Do they don't have what we have here, or are you satisfied about the ingredients?
The ingredients there, we can find a lot of the more popular ingredients. Of course, you can find all sorts of nước mắm or mắm tôm. We don't get all of the herbs. Every time I come back to Vietnam, we discover herbs that I've never had in the States. So we don't get all of the herbs. There are certain things that we cannot get, but I don't even know about it until I come here. Like our bánh tráng is different in the States. The bánh tráng, there's a lot more variety. I think in Vietnam, in terms of bánh tráng, there's just some things we can't get, but I mean, we've been able to make do. It's like ignorance is bliss. You don't really know what you're missing because we don't know until I come here. I'm like, oh, we don't have this over here. So, but I think in terms of like quality, I do believe that for beef is probably better in the U.S. There's probably a lot more variety of seafood here, more interesting produce. Like we don't like things like mangkok and like certain fruits. Like we don't get as good or as inexpensive over there. It's not, it's the fruits in, I think, Southeast Asia are much better than in America.
What is your advice for restaurateurs in Vietnam or anywhere? I know it's really difficult, but I want to hear your opinion. Yeah,
So
please.
many.
First one, don't do it.
It's funny. Like
People always told us.
people always said, "Don't do it, don't do it," but we're like, "Nah, we want to try it." I always still remember our friend who owns a restaurant in California, and this is before we opened our first one, and she said, "You're never going to be 100% happy with everything, but as long as you're 80% happy, you just go with it." And I was like, you know what, that's really good advice, because like if you're trying to be 100% happy with every decision you make, you're never going to get anywhere, because you're just going to be so stressed that nothing's ever perfect. And I think like hospitality is, it's like that saying, that metaphor where you see a swan on a lake. They look super calm, serene, but underneath the water, they're pedaling as fast as they can, and that's what hospitality is. In the background, it's a shit show. But in the front, the customers don't notice it. But to you, you notice every flaw because it's like your baby. But like I said, you just have to be 80% happy. You just go with the flow.
It's like a wedding.
Yeah, you just have to go with the flow. I think that's that's probably the one thing I would say. And then like hiring a strong team. I think with our second restaurant, we opened during the pandemic, so we're strapped for cash, so we didn't have a lot of money, we're losing money. And so we tried to be budget friendly with who we hired. And I think that really hurt the overall business because we didn't hire strong people. And I think even though you have to pay more money for stronger people, I think in the end it's gonna be a better experience for the customer, better experience for you as a business owner. It's completely worth the extra money, finding the right people.
That is great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You?
I don't. You took all of my advice. I'm trying to think.
How about how about Christine's advice on creating a menu for a restaurant?
Oh, I have advice on that. Okay. I think, so what I've learned with creating a menu is you really have to think, first of all, where is your restaurant located? And in terms of that, who is your audience? So if you're in a neighborhood restaurant, that's a different menu than if you're maybe in like a bustling downtown restaurant where a lot of people work, or if you're in an affluent neighborhood versus maybe a more middle of the road blue collar neighborhood. So you have to think about your audience first. And then you think about your brand. Like, what are you trying to do? So like what John explained before is like we weren't trying to copy the restaurant of our parents' generation. All the pho shops, the banh mi shops, the cơm tấm shops that are doing it really well and for very little costs, right? So that's why my menu development was like, what makes me unique? Well, it's my story, right? I'm born in California, born in the States, grew up in Texas, but ate a lot of Vietnamese food of Vietnamese heritage. What do I love? I love comfort food. So all of these things play into my story. So my menu development is each dish I put on the menu is something that has to make sense to that. So it has to be like targeted to who, like, would these people that come to this restaurant eat this? Does it make sense with my brand? Does it make sense with my story? Is it something that I would want to eat and would want to order? And each dish I put in the menu, I have to think too, like, how do I make it different and how do I elevate it? And not that it means like putting fancy ingredients or anything, but just how do I make each dish special and unique? And it has to have a reason to be on the menu. It has to make sense. And then of course you have to think about the backside, logistically running a restaurant. How do you cross-utilize ingredients? Like, you don't necessarily want to carry an ingredient just for one dish. So what can you do that you use in other dishes and then you can use again in this dish? So you have to think about all those sorts of things. And then you have to think about supply chain, how easy or how hard is it to get certain ingredients, how much those ingredients cost. Like, maybe there's something that you really want to put on the menu, but then it makes the cost of that dish very high. Like, will someone pay $45 for the dish? No. So then you have to, sadly, you might have to take it off. So there's so many things I think that play into the curation of a menu. And then you also have to think like what dishes on the menu, like so like they just kind of have to make sense. And like going down the dish, like if people want a starter and then like a main dish to share and then a dessert, does it flow? Does it flow well? Yeah. So a lot of things factor into that.
Yeah, I think people can learn a lot from your answers, from a restaurateur business point of view and from a chef's point of view. We have learned a great share from talking to you guys. So thank you so much. Thank you for being on Food Stories with Summer and Leon. And
thank you for having us.
Any final words?
Final words, John, and then I'll say something.
I don't know. I'll be back.
What did you say?
I'll be back.
You'll be back?
Like Terminator. I'll be back.
Final words.
Go to the restaurant. I'm sure it's amazing.
Let me think. Final words. I'd say I don't want to be one of those people that say like, oh, if you love cooking or if food is your passion, then do it. Because I think passion can only get you so far. I think it's a lot more than just passion. I always say in a lot of my talks, there's 3 things that are keys to success. One is you have to have passion, so you have to really love what you do, but that only gets you a third of the way there. The other thing is you have to have talent, right? So you have to be good at it, but that could be worked on. So some people are born with natural talent at art, but you can also work at it, whether you study it or you just do it a lot and then you start mastering the craft. But the third thing that a lot of people forget about that helps you be successful is opportunity. So sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's being in the right place at the right time. Sometimes it's, recently we got the opportunity to talk to the actor Matthew McConaughey, and I asked him for advice. And his advice was be open to the universe. And basically what he means is be open to things that come to you, and like, don't be closed-minded and narrow-minded. Like sometimes there's great things around the corner and you don't know, so you always need to open yourself up to the universe and allow things to come to you. So that is about opportunity. So it's about, yes, sometimes it's being in the right place at the right time, knowing the right people, but sometimes it's you setting your own destiny and being open and allowing these things to come to you. And is there, seize the opportunity, make it a market for you. Like you need to find a market for what you're doing. So you need passion, talent, and opportunity, and a balance of all those 3 things I think will equal success. So that's my biggest piece of advice.
To expand, I don't think you should just sit around and wait for opportunity. Like it also means like being open to opportunity means you need to put yourself out there for the opportunity to come to you. So that means like going out, networking, meeting new people.
Meeting Master Chef.
Yeah, exactly. Like even like we, reached out to you, or you guys reached out to us, and we networked, and now we're sitting here talking. Like those are opportunities.
We'll have a restaurant together.
Yeah,
later.
and then those are opportunities that you guys put yourself out there for that to happen. So I think it's about hustling. You gotta hustle.
People work. We're smart.
You sound so good. You sound so good.
We know what the hell we're talking about.
2 restaurants. We're ready for our bus.